everyone. I'm Susan Regan, and I'm a relationship expert and coach. I'm also a certified mediator and a seasoned couple counselor in the Bay Area. I've worked with couples for many years, and I wanted to just give you some ideas about how I think about relationships, and also explain to you why I'm doing a 30-day challenge for couples to help them strengthen their relationship. Well, firstly, life is complicated. And when we're in a long-term relationship, we have many, many chapters of life to do together. And I really feel like people don't plan that very well. We get into relationships feeling a lot of love and lust, and that is excellent. It's such a great time, the very beginning of the relationship. The sex is good. There's not a lot of contradictions or conflicts. We have a lot of equity to pull through the very first part of the relationship. You might notice that around 6 months to a year, a lot of the relationship problems start showing up, and there needs to be communication and discussion, insight and acceptance about our differences. But we don't get really great modeling about that in the world. Think for a second about who your relationship models are. Even if you had a really peaceful modeling of, let's say, the people that took care of you, you might not have seen how to deal with conflict or have productive fighting. So that's really important in relationships too, is how you work things out. We have limited skills on that, and where are we going to learn them? So I want you to think about conflict in relationships or areas that the relationship is actually needing to grow. So there's two individuals that come together. And the longer we stay together, the more that we develop our individuality in our relationship. So that means we really have to work on connecting, because after a while, the differences really show up. So conflict in a relationship just means the relationship is saying, I need to grow, I need to evolve. And in order to do that, we need to develop some skill sets. The couple needs to develop some skill sets. So where do you do this in your relationship? What kind of new information do you get about how to develop skills? And skills could be communication skills, trying to speak better to each other, talk in I statements, not be defensive, active listening. That might be one. How to communicate about your needs. I often see couples having really unmet needs in relationships, but they don't know how to communicate about them so that they're heard and understood. And then realistic expectations. So not our partner can't be everything to us. So we can't get all our needs met by our partner. And that can be really disappointing. But what I'm hoping to do in my Strengthening Relationship 4-week, 30-day couple challenge is to give you a look at some of the areas where we create the most stress in a couple relationship, and give you some tips and strategies and ways of working on these things. So if you're feeling like your relationship is where you want it to be, this could be a refresher. You could just take a look at, am I doing everything that we can to have a good relationship? Have we really identified all the issues? Because sometimes we don't even look at the things that we need to look at so that we can even develop our relationship further. So that's one thought pattern. That's one thought that I have. The other is, are you doing practices in your relationship that really help you build up the positivity? So day-to-day life can be stressful, right? And we can notice the things that our partners don't do. But do we notice the things that our partners do? And do they notice us trying to do the things that we do? It's so important to be acknowledged. It's hard to actually be invisible in a couple relationship. We sometimes don't feel seen, and that's a huge message. That's like almost a loud screaming message when we feel invisible in a relationship. So I want you to take some time to think about that just right now for yourself. Are you really acknowledging and seeing the efforts that your partner does in the relationship that you're in? And do you feel like you're being really seen? And can you talk about that difference? And then there's the other issue of intimacy. Well, how about intimacy? How about that? When we're together for long periods of time, intimacy might get strained. It might get to be habitual, not exciting, something that we're not really looking forward to. And we don't really know how to practice having new kinds of intimacy with each other, because intimacy grows and changes as well. So, how are you working on your intimate relationship? Is it something that you're just falling into? Is it just a habit? Is it something that you're not able to talk about? And maybe you didn't develop any skills or any language to be able to go deeper in your intimacy with each other. Do you have a time that you actually sit around and talk about intimacy and what you might want to have happen that's different in your intimacy environment? And maybe intimacy needs to be redefined. And maybe it's not so much physical intimacy, intercourse kind of intimacy. Maybe it's really emotional intimacy and feeling like you're completely accepted and understood. And then the deepening of intimacy can happen even more. So, wherever you are in your relationship, whether you're thinking that you need to strengthen, or you're feeling misunderstood, or you have unmet needs, or you want to develop your intimacy, there's a piece in my course for all of this. The hard things that are hard to talk about will be addressed, and you'll learn techniques on how not to avoid the hard conversations. So there's even a section on finances. So sex and finances are the hardest things that couples talk about. And a lot of it is because they feel shame, and they also don't feel good about themselves. They feel evaluated, and they feel like they're letting their partner down, or they just want to hide. So if you're having an area where you're like not approaching it, not able to talk with your partner about these things, that's a real indicator that you might have some work to do. So I believe in love. I believe that people can have the kinds of relationships that they want to have, and that they can really heal themselves in their relationships. You know that saying, like, love is all there is. And yes, that's true. But in order to have really love that makes us feel really connected and really inspired and really seen, we have to work on what that means for both parties, because it could mean very different things to each person. So take a few minutes to think about your relationship and really evaluate what parts of your relationship do you want to strengthen. Try not to avoid those thoughts because they might be overwhelming, but break them down. And then see if you can find information to get some new ways of thinking about these topics. Feel free to stay on my newsletter and hear the things that I present that have to do with strengthening couple relationships. I do that month by month. And I have lots of good speakers coming in this month that give tips on each of the areas that I'm addressing in the 4-week course. So stay in touch with me, and remember that relationships are an amazing place to heal. And I hope you get the guidance and the direction that you need to really work on and heal in your relationship. Bye for now.